This is the second video on the topic that has no history. I want to start with clothes, such a usual object for us. We never think about when and how they first appeared. It seems to us that clothes have always been there, although historians insist that primitive man was initially naked and only later wore animal skins. That might be the case, but when did he start wearing woven clothes? Likely when fabric was invented. And how could it have come about? But this question, and many others, are dismissed by experts, as if it doesn't matter how everything came to be. Why bother pondering? In fact, it's very important because without an answer to this simple question, the whole story falls apart like a house of cards, though we've long since knocked down this house. Let's consider a few more aspects of the story. So, the fabric we see, a tribe of apes not yet human. They live in caves, dress in the skins of slain animals. How could they desire to wear thin fabric clothes, the existence of which they had no concept? Of course, it's easy for monkeys to create fabric, right? Just find a suitable plant like cotton, flax, or hemp. Let's say flax since it's abundant in the forest. Monkeys know exactly what it looks like. Gather about 500 kilograms of seeds and prepare them for sowing. Then find a field, clear it, uproot the trees and bushes, till the soil with who knows what, and plant the seeds at the right time and in the right way. Monkeys know, they have natural instincts. Now wait for the plants to mature. Cut the flax, dry it, braid it, extract the fibers, boil them, bleach them, spin them into yarn. There you have it, ready to be woven into. In short, fabric production is a complex high-tech process. Nowadays, dozens of devices are needed to process flax. But monkeys don't care, they'd manage anyway. They'd build a loom from sticks, weave fabric, and though they lack scissors and needles, they'd find a way to make clothes. We have historians for that. They surely know. Indeed, the answer's ready. Prehistoric people used fish bones as needles. Let's give these scientists some bones and see if they can sew. But seriously, fabric production needs developed agriculture, textile mills, power systems, research institutes, engineers, and skilled workers. All must appear simultaneously, as without any of these nothing works. Historians ignore this, avoiding obvious facts. Their goal? Fit all research into one wild theory. Here's a clear example from our time. You all know there are tribes completely isolated from civilization, living on remote islands with no intention to develop. Some of these tribes have lived there for thousands of years, up to the present day. Let's take an example. The Sentinelese Island, I'm sure you've heard of it. They have no plans to smelt metal, grow wheat, make clothes, or travel. They hunt, fish, eat, sleep, and repeat. There are many such tribes on Earth. So why don't they progress? Why have they remained unchanged for millennia? Why haven't they produced scientists capable of innovation? Metal or clothes, they still live in the Stone Age. Arrowheads, spears, and axes are all made of stone. It's unfortunate, but these people are not capable of more. I'll tell you more. If all of mankind really went through the Stone Age as official history claims, we would still be stuck there now. You see, a person cannot create something they have no concept of until it's shown or explained to them. For example, take a blank sheet of paper and try to draw or depict something that doesn't exist on Earth yet. If you can't do it, what makes you think scientists could? Look at how quickly technology has leapt forward. Just 30 years ago, we couldn't imagine this world. As if by magic, we now have computers, tablets, iPhones, electric cars, and motorcycles. You're probably expecting an answer from me, but how did all this happen? How did people come up with it all? I hate to disappoint you, but I don't have the answer to that question. One thing I can say is that everything we have in the world today isn't a human invention. But let's continue. Wooden ships with white sails fill history books. Extras, naval battles, and romance abound. Scientists say thousands of wooden ships sailed the seas, but they don't specify who built them, where, or how. They dodge tough questions, repeating their favorite phrase. They did everything. What era? Sails and miles of ropes. I wonder how they built their ships. Specifically, how did they cut the planks for the hull and with what? Back then they couldn't smelt metal. Let's say they made an axe somehow, but you can't use an axe to cut boards. Did they have sawmills? Seems simple, but it's not. You need a saw to cut planks. Even a handsaw needs steel. For steel, you need mills, mines, and factories. It's a chicken and egg problem. In ancient times, Vikings sailed the seas. Their long ships called drakars plowed the ocean far and wide. They even reached America, they say. Look at this drakar, a massive boat with 20 oars. It's beautiful. Our game designers did well. But how did they manage on it? It's completely open. Where did they cook, hide from storms, or sleep? Did they row all day without food or rest? And look at these huge oars. How much did they weigh? Even more intriguing is how 20 rowers stayed in sync. It's hard in calm waters, let alone rough seas. Some oars in water, others in air. They drift off course. Imagine a Viking voyage. They dress up, ready for donning designer helmets. They boarded the boat. The sea was rough, but they had to sail and plunder. As they pushed off, wives and kids waved goodbye. The crew grabbed oars and started rowing, splashing water everywhere. After 10 minutes, they realized they hadn't moved an inch. Such was their predicament. Vikings, interestingly, had quite remarkable swords. The metal used was so pure it puzzled scientists. Achieving such purity requires incredibly complex technology. Even today, it's challenging. Yet these savages managed it. They must have had extraordinary skills in chemistry and metallurgy. But if so, why were they still running around in animal skins? And think about this as I continue. Take Genghis Khan with his 300,000 strong army, who supposedly tormented Russia for 300 years. Okay, 3,000 troops, but to feed them, they'd need 1,000,000 sheep. How did this horde cross the Siberian taiga and rivers? Historians are silent. Their job isn't to tell the truth. They don't tell how it really was. There's no real history. We're in a matrix, a game. We appeared here recently, everything ready-made. We're NPCs, non-player characters. Pause, read this carefully, then ask yourself, how are you different from an NPC? You see, we ordinary folks live by a system. A kid's born, goes to daycare, then school, college, works most of their life, retires, and waits for the end. That's 90% of us. The other 10%, they're the real players, controlling their characters. Some have good intentions, others evil, like light and dark forces. When one side wins, the world resets. What do you think of that theory? To draw us into this game, they invented the past. Game designers painted a beautiful picture of bygone eras, and we bought it. Now let's talk bridges. As you figured out, without them, large-scale movement of people is impossible. So no conquests, no campaigns, no Silk Roads, no trade between countries. If all that stuff happened, bridges must have existed. And who built them? People living in a robot-owning society. Well, let's see how bridges are built, or rather, how bridge supports are installed. It's done like this. A steel cylinder is welded about as wide as the support, say 10 meters, and 20 meters tall. If the river is 15 meters deep, this metal cylinder is loaded onto a barge and taken to the installation site. A crane places it on the riverbed. They pump out the water, fill it with concrete, install metal structures, and pour more concrete. That's how the support gradually forms. What's needed for this? As always, it's metallurgy, engineering, massive concrete production, heavy-duty cranes, and all that. They had everything. If the ancients didn't exist, then there would be no history. If they did, this is our time. So, I'm leaving behind all these Spartans, Genghis Khan, guardsmen from every army, crusaders, and others. They have no place in life, so they effectively didn't exist. They're all suitable for novels, paintings, artists, and museums. Lastly, a word on geographical maps. Question: who made the ancient maps and how? Try taking a piece of paper, go into the forest, and draw a map of the area. Will it be accurate? No, but the ancients managed to make maps somehow. Scientists say they use compasses and spyglasses, but that's impossible. And by the way, where did they even get those? They don't explain. So how did they do it? They actually didn't. To create a map, you'd need to fly over the area, photograph it, and then use complex geodetic instruments to process the topography and more. It's pointless to describe the whole process. Ancient people didn't have maps and couldn't have made them. Of course, you can find perfectly preserved maps from all eras online, but they were all created by artificial intelligence back then, not for our time, but how did they end up in our time? That's another question which, unfortunately, I don't have the answer to. Today, I'm probably for